Apparently FedEx isn't the only major sponsor departing Denny Hamlin. At least 23XI scored another legal victory today. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove. Happy Friday, folks. We have so much ground to cover. Let's not waste any time. Breaking news this afternoon. Judge Kenneth Bell has denied NASCAR's motion to dismiss the antitrust case. Bear with me, please, as I read part of his ruling. The judge writes, "What is the actual evidence and how does it inform a correct legal conclusion? These questions cannot be determined on motions to dismiss in this action, where plaintiffs have sufficiently alleged one or more plausible antitrust claims against defendants within the applicable period of limitations. Instead, the answers must be found when the parties have a full opportunity to pursue discovery of the relevant facts and then at trial, where the jury will be able to weigh the evidence and assess the credibility of the witnesses, unless the case is resolved sooner by the parties or the court. Therefore, the court will deny the defendant's motion to dismiss." Always a mouthful. Not a huge surprise. Those who attended the in-person hearing earlier this week believed this would be the likely outcome. My non-legal expert analysis of this ruling is that NASCAR is beginning to run out of bullets. The teams were granted their injunction. Now, NASCAR's motion to dismiss has failed. The only bullet they have left, I guess, is their appeal of the preliminary injunction results. If that bullet misses, the pressure is seriously on the sanctioning body. The judge mentioned it. We're getting closer and closer to the discovery stage. NASCAR and the France family keep all of their business private. Discovery would lead to much of those private financial records being made public for teams, sponsors, media, and fans to pour over. It would allow the entire world to see behind the curtain. That's why I believe most of the pressure now is on NASCAR. Some in the industry speculate that a settlement perhaps could be made before the Daytona 500. I'm not sure I'm that optimistic, but I do believe with every decision that's been made recently, more and more pressure is being put on NASCAR to sit back down at the negotiating table. What does the timeline look like? I have no idea. I think your guess is as good as mine. Maybe they'll fight this thing all the way through to December 1st, 2025, when the trial date is currently scheduled. Anyway, that's the latest out of the lawsuit. Let's move on. Does Denny Hamlin have a sponsorship problem? Eagle-eyed Hamlin fans noticed a Coca-Cola Racing post that featured Hamlin in a mostly blank fire suit. The only two primary sponsors shown there are Sport Clips and Coca-Cola. 11 fans also noticed that Mavis Tire and Brakes are no longer listed on the Joe Gibbs Racing website. Mavis, plus some of their other brands like Brakes Plus, Express Oil Change, sponsored, I believe, 9 races for Denny Hamlin last season. If you add up those 9 plus the roughly 14 races I believe FedEx sponsored last year, that's 23 races, 23 out of, I guess, 38 races that could be unsponsored in 2025. That's where the concern from Denny Hamlin fans on social media comes from. Now, there's a lot we don't know. Sport Clips has been a loyal partner. They could step up, fill in some of those gaps. Coca-Cola, Interstate Batteries, Yahoo is still listed on the Joe Gibbs Racing Partners page. JGR could also be waiting to announce a new sponsor. Over the past few years, Hamlin has added Yahoo, Mavis, Shingrix into the mix, at least for a stretch of races. That could happen again in 2025. But I do understand why Denny Hamlin fans are so concerned. The trends do not look good. Denny Hamlin has lost 2 major sponsors and an all-star crew chief in one off season. I've seen a lot of fans speculate about Denny Hamlin's future. What does Denny's future look like? He signed a multi-year extension with Joe Gibbs Racing towards the end of 2023. 2025 would be year 2 of that agreement. Does he have a deal for 2026? Was that only a 2-year contract? We don't know. That's not public. What was made public was Denny Hamlin's shock when JGR swapped his crew chiefs out. JGR promoted Chris Gabehart to the role of competition director and assigned Chris Gale to the 11 team. reportedly without consulting Denny Hamlin first. Hamlin said at the time, quote, "The first few days were a shock, but I'm moving on. There's nothing I can do to change anything that happened, and JGR is doing what they feel is best for them, and I totally understand that. And if all of our program gets better, the 11 car is going to run better as well, right?" I've seen a lot of fans online suggest this is going to be Denny Hamlin's final year as a full-time Cup driver. And it could be. Hamlin's 44 years old, now the oldest full-time driver in Cup. He's had back surgery, he's had shoulder surgery. Sponsorship now, as we've discussed, may be a concern. This could be the last year of his current contract. The new crew chief pairing might hurt performance. 2311, the lawsuit, the podcast, another child on the way might be a distraction. That is a lot to consider. But it's also all hypothetical. May be a concern, could be the last year, might be a distraction. Nothing is certain. I think the next 4 months or so will tell us a lot about Denny Hamlin's future. Do they announce a new sponsor deal, for one? How does Denny Hamlin perform to start the year? He hasn't won a Cup Series race since April. Joe Gibbs Racing as a team didn't win any races the second half of 2024. If Denny Hamlin and Chris Gale get off to a hot start, win a couple of races early, all this retirement talk may start to quiet down. But if JGR lags behind Hendrick, lags behind Penske, if Denny Hamlin's contract and sponsorship continues to be a concern, Denny Hamlin, at 44 years old with everything going on in his life, I'm not sure he accepts a lesser contract to stay with Gibbs beyond this season. It's easy to compare his situation now to Kyle Busch's situation when Eminem's backed out, but they're a little bit different. For one, Hamlin at 44 years old is not at the same point in his career Kyle Busch was at 2 years ago. Also, Denny Hamlin has been with JGR pretty much his entire NASCAR career. Kyle Busch, little different. Hamlin, of course, was very close with JD Gibbs. There is, I think, a slightly different dynamic. But one thing is the same, I believe. Gibbs reportedly offered Kyle Busch a lesser contract to stay with JGR. He said no. If push comes to shove and JGR has to offer Hamlin a lesser deal to stay with JGR, I also think he'll decline. I just do. 44 would then be at least 45 years old. Got his own race team to worry about, a new baby at home. I don't see Hamlin staying with Gibbs if the contract is significantly less. Again, much of this is hypothetical. I want to make that clear. I've seen a lot of Denny Hamlin fans very concerned that Mavis isn't on the fire suit, not on the website anymore. Who's going to step up and fund Hamlin's career? I get the concerns, but much of these concerns, at least at this point, are hypothetical. It's okay to talk about them, to be aware of them going into this season, but let's not read too much into these hypothetical scenarios this early in the year. Let's wait for the next few months, see how things start to play out, then maybe we can form more confident conclusions. Gosh, there's so much news. I'm not sure we'll get to everything today. We have a new Daytona 500 confirmation. Anthony Alfredo will attempt to qualify for the Great American Race with Beard Motorsports. Alfredo back in the number 62 Chevy. He raced his way into the Daytona 500 with Beard Motorsports 1 year ago. Beard Motorsports has qualified for the 500 2 of the last 3 years. They missed it in 23 with Austin Hill, I believe, but they made it with Noah in 22, made it with Alfredo in 24. They'll attempt to go 3 for their last 4 this February, once again with Fast Pasta behind the wheel. Let's update the graphic. Now that's 5 confirmed open Daytona 500 entries, which means at least one car will be going home. Well, unless that one car is the 91, thanks to NASCAR's new open exemption provisional. But check out my video from earlier today for more info. You can also see the list of unconfirmed entries. At least a few of these are expected to participate, but we're still more than a month away. Nothing is set in stone. We will continue to update the chart as more and more teams finalize their plans. Final topic I'd like to discuss. Junior Motorsports has signed Ross Chastain and Shane Van Gisbergen to a part-time Xfinity schedule this year. Chastain will drive the number 9 Chevy at COTA, Darlington, Nashville, Dover, and Iowa, while SVG will do 4 road course races: Mexico City, Chicago Streets, Sonoma, and the Glen. Gosh, SVG in a colleague car was dominant enough. Put him in a Junior Motorsports Chevy championship equipment. SVG is fun to watch, but I'm worried some of those road course races are going to be blowouts. When I first saw this news, I was a little surprised to see Mexico City on this schedule, considering when NASCAR first went to Chicago 2 years ago, they barred full-time Cup Series drivers from participating. SVG is now a full-time Cup Series driver. Bob Pockrass, Fox Sports, clarified. NASCAR confirmed that full-time Cup drivers will be allowed to do the Xfinity race at Mexico City. That's an interesting choice. I can see both sides of the argument. On one hand, I get that it's been nearly 20 years since NASCAR raced in Mexico. I get that this is a rare opportunity for Mexican NASCAR fans to see the biggest stars of stock car racing. If SVG or Kyle Larson or Joey Logano or whoever want to race the Saturday race as well, great. More opportunities for fans to see the biggest names in person. But on the other hand, I was at Chicago this past summer when 43 Xfinity cars attempted to qualify for the 38-car field. DGM brought an extra car for Daniel Suarez. Hendrick showed up for Kyle Larson. AM Racing put Logano in the 15. Gibbs put John Hunter and Ty Gibbs in their cars. A lot of Cup drivers entered that race, a couple extra cars as well. As a result, we saw an Alpha Prime Chevy miss the race. We saw both JD Motorsports cars fail to qualify, and JD Motorsports announced bankruptcy just a few weeks later. So I see both sides. Again, on this hand, SVG versus Kyle Larson was a fantastic show at Chicago this past summer. If I'm a fan in Mexico City, I want to see the big names race as much as possible. But on the other hand, if all these Xfinity teams start bringing extra cars for Cup Series guys, for ringers, I could see this being a very expensive weekend for the smaller Xfinity Series teams. It's I Google Maps it, like a 32-hour drive from Charlotte to Mexico City, plus you got to cross the border in Texas. That's expensive. I see both sides of it. Personally, I wish NASCAR had done what they did for Chicago. Year one, Cup guys can't participate. No extra track time. Don't bring them extra cars. Let the Xfinity regulars have their moment to shine. Year two, sure, let the Cup guys race. I understand wanting the biggest names on the racetrack, but I think there could be a balance. So I'm surprised a little that NASCAR made this call. Just wanted to talk about that a bit. That's all I've got for today's episode. Let me know in the comments below if you agree with my assessment. If you're planning to go to Mexico City, are you excited to know that some Cup guys will also race the Saturday event? Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching this video, y'all. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe for more NASCAR content, commentary, and so much more every single day. The regular season is coming up quick. Cannot wait. Thank you to my Patreon supporters as well. I hope you have a great rest of your week. I will talk to you again soon. Thanks again for watching.